This is Michael
The
Rosenberg's Bottom Line. Brought to you by the Terrible Twos.
Oh, God.
Okay, so this is the bottom line, guys. This is the section to where if people don't want to hear all the hilarity and have all the fun with us, they just want to know what's the bottom line. Should I watch this show or should I not? Well, we have...
Cut to the chase.
Right, Masterson. Here we go. The bottom line is 2 questions that Mike calls the Terrible Twos. Question number 1
I don't call them that. Ryan calls them that.
Scale of 1 to 10 of the Terrible Twos. What would you give the first episode of Short Trek's Michael Kenyon Rosenberg?
I would give Star Trek Short Trek's Runaway a score of 7.9. I liked it.
Kind of like a Borg. Kind of like a Borg.
Yeah, 7.9. I quite enjoyed it, and obviously it wasn't a full episode, and there wasn't like a B story and a C story, but I really enjoyed it. I thought, like I mentioned before, I thought it was a really sweet story. At the end, I shed a single tear when they were kind of saying goodbye to each other, and so yeah.
I would like to take back one thing I said. I would have liked to see a character from the ship come on, like some kind of, but there was at least the moment with Tilly's mom in there. That was
there was also when all those characters walked into the cafeteria.
Right, but they didn't really get much to work with, but I was still happy to see them, Anyway, Scott Baker, scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this first episode of Short Treks? And you don't have to lie. If you didn't like it, you're allowed.
I'd give it a 6.666666666666667.
Huh. That final 7, is that just because like the calculator ran out of space, or because you just
it rounds up?
You gotta you gotta round up eventually.
Okay. 6.67.
A nice 2/3. Nice.
Yeah. Even. Melissa, scale of 1 to 10, what would you give it?
I was going to give it a 6.99.
Hey.
All of you guys have weird numbers. 7 of 9, 666, 6.9.
This was like an episode of Price is Right, where you're like trying to and $2.01.
1 cent, yeah.
Scott's like, I give it 2 pi.
Yeah.
So is that really what you're giving it? It's 6.99 because it's just a hair, a spaghetti string below a 7.
Yeah.
Did she stutter?
There was an extra meatball in there. I could do a 7, but
did somebody say the trouble with Edwards? Okay. Because they're like a giant meatball.
This is a spicy meatball. Okay.
For me, this is a very tough question because I feel as though the episode itself, not great for me personally, but the concept is outstanding. The concept's like a 10. Honestly, it's a perfect idea for a series. So, and this is really tough because it's an anthology thing. So I can't really judge an entire series based on this first episode.
But you have to is the key, though.
Oh, shit. You're right.
Dang it. Sorry.
Okay. So factoring in the concept and factoring in the show and averaging them out, I give it a 7.
All right. That's better than I expected from Ryan.
Because I'm factoring in the concept.
The concept, yeah.
The concept drags it up quite a bit.
Nice. Good job, concept.
All right. Now, dude, you guys, it's called the Terrible Twos, not the Terrible Ones. So it's not
even called that. Oh.
So
it's called the bottom line.
The second question is, for the purposes of this podcast, you had to watch the first episode of Star Trek Short Treks called Runaway.
We forced you to.
Yeah, now that the podcast is over,
made me watch it.
You've done everything that you have to do. Would you watch the second episode of your own volition? Michael Kenyon Rosenberg.
Based on this first episode, absolutely. Yes.
What about you, Scott? Would you watch the second?
Well, with the benefit of hindsight, I did watch the second episode. Based on watching this episode, I would say yes, and I did.
It's Star Trek.
Yeah, it's Star Trek. Yeah.
Come on.
We round up quite a bit for Star Trek.
Good.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We round up a lot for Star Trek because it's Star Trek and we like it. What about you, Melissa Longo?
I would watch the second. I'm definitely curious to watch the second episode. I haven't yet, but yeah.
So now you get to enjoy the whole series of Short Treks.
Short Treks.
And it's not going to take you that long to watch them. So.
No.
Yeah. Very small investment.
All right, Ryan.
It's an easy yes.
Yeah.
It's an easy yes because even if you think, oh, this episode's not as good as I wanted it to be or that one or whatever, they're 10, 12, 15, 18 minutes long. It's okay. It's easy. It's an appetizer. It gives you extra. It's a bonus. This series is a bonus is what it is. So, yeah, I would watch the second. Sure. It's easy. It's fun. It's fine.
It's Star Trek.
It's extra Star Trek. It's more Star Trek. And we like Star Trek.
I do.
Sometimes. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
Fooled you.
Oh.
Okay. Well, we did it. And now what we like to do is we like to close it out by saying this podcast was a great time with great friends. And we talked about a great franchise.
This podcast could be called Long Treks.
This podcast had a lot more talk about breakfast cereal than I anticipated.
That felt like a Bridget answer. Melissa?
This podcast was longer than the Short Treks.
By about 75%.
Yeah. Unless you're looking at it the other way, then it's 400% as long.
Okay. You're the math guy, so
it's 400% as long as the Short Trek, even more, maybe even 500% by the time we're done. So here we go. Big time. Thank you for joining us. Hit the like button. Tell us, watch the first thing in the comments. Hit the bell icon for notifications. Mike
first
says,
you have to hit subscribe, though.
Yeah.
And then there's the little bell icon, and then you can just elbow it in the face.
Dusty Rhodes elbow.
The people's elbow.
Anyway, Scott, thank you very much for joining us. Melissa, thank you so much for accidentally stumbling in and feeling like you were forced to participate. We appreciate that. That was really cool of you guys. Anyway, we like to close this thing out with some words of wisdom delivered to us by Michael Kenyon Rosenberg when he says,
don't forget to watch the first of things.
I was just watching Melissa's reaction when you're doing it. She was like, what's going on? What's happening?
What is that?
Yeah. Anyway, see you later, guys.